spa behind me. Police say it's too soon to tell whether victims were targeted because of their race.
But the killer said himself that it wasn't about race. And yet,
people are calling for new laws to protect Asian Americans.
The surge in hate crimes against Asian Americans only getting worse.
It's like it's open season on people who look like me, who look like my parents.
Attacks against Asian Americans have reached a crisis point.
all of this is thanks to critical race theory, an ideology that puts race above all else. Your values, your skills and talents, your dreams, desires, they're all wiped out, and put in place instead is the new defining aspect of your life, your skin color. I know it started at the nation's universities. That's the breeding ground for far-left ideologues. But it's now spreading not only to our young kids.
Other people of color experience other forms of racism too, but you won't see any of that if you don't see color.
But into every aspect of our society as well. It's a manipulated attempt to control you. But fight it, and they will take you down.
You feel helpless. You know, there's nothing you can do about it.
So tonight, like any other public enemy, we study the threat. We identify it and watch how it spreads.
Critical race theory is making its way into our after-school programs.
Then, what we can do to put it in its place. Tonight, critical race tyranny, the great reset of education.
From this time forward, you will service us.
Welcome to the Racist Rabbit Hole, part. What's up? Ooh, y'all see that opening? Man, all kind of stuff was going on in there beside the hot beat. But now we see that this thing keeps popping up for some reason. Now, I don't know about y'all, but me growing up, I didn't hear all of this about racism. I mean, it was only relevant when it was relevant. No one was going around with their head on a swivel like a linebacker looking for somebody coming in his direction for racism. Nobody was looking for reasons to get offended. They was hoping that the topic of racism wouldn't come up. But now, doesn't it seem strange that every single day you turn on the TV, you can't go 5 minutes without hearing them talk about race or racism? Isn't it kind of odd that that's the first go-to now whenever you hear about a particular type of incident taking place in our cities, like a black person being killed by a white person or especially a white cop? The go-to is immediately racism. Now, I remember growing up, a lot of brothers got themselves shot, but I didn't hear nothing about that. So all of a sudden, as times are changing and we're moving in a certain direction, this has now become the number one issue. In fact, we hear people talking about that this is the number one issue in our country. It's an epidemic. So if I'm getting this straight, racism and attacks and murders of black folks and other minorities are on the same level as what? The Spanish flu, the Black Plague, or even this quote-unquote pandemic we're currently facing. These random shootings of black folks, mostly by other black folks, but the ones that aren't, by white, cops and stuff like that, is happening at such a rapid rate that this has been declared a national, a pandemic. This right here is an epidemic. And yet nobody is trying to internalize what they're saying here and trying to put it in reality and saying to yourself, okay, now, I mean, yeah, I hear of a lot of people saying, yeah, I contracted COVID, but I don't remember the last black dude that I ran into that said, man, cops drug me out of my car for absolutely no reason and shot me, and I wasn't resistant or anything, just because I'm black. It happens all the time. You've never had it happen to you, Kev? What? How are you getting past this epidemic, this national crisis of racism and white systemically motivated police officers? How are you getting through all of this, Kev? I don't understand. Do you have a hookup? So, it has to be something else, because what they're doing is creating a false reality in people's mind by pushing this agenda. And all it's doing is hurting us, guys. All it's doing is separating us. So here we go, guys. Part 2 of going down this racist rabbit hole.
The ending scene in Die Hard at the Nakatomi Plaza, and yet they're insisting these are mostly peaceful protests, even though there were billions of dollars in damage.
Yeah, man. That opening statement, it's so common sense that you can't make it nonsensical. Because my thought is this: how can two things coexist in the same space? They can't. See, how can you have peaceful and yet non-peaceful at the same time? You got a peaceful, non-peaceful protest? How do you come up with all of that damage, millions of dollars of damage that didn't occur from no earthquake? I don't recall a typhoon, I don't recall a windstorm, a blizzard, nothing, none of that, no hurricanes, but yet all that billions of dollars in damage. That hurricane was people. That's what that was. That whole hurricane, all that destruction, all of that money was caused by human efforts. That's what that was. But yet somehow it was peaceful. I got a gut feeling somebody trying to feed us boo-boo and tell us it's chocolate. And I know the difference. But you know what? We better go in for a closer look to see what's all this hubbub about and why is all this systemic racism and racial narratives popping up. And could there be a hidden agenda behind it all? We're going to go deep within this rabbit hole here at Kevin's Corner. Buckle up.
Anarcho-tyranny in America. Well, it's springtime here in America, and you all know what that means. Instead of rebirth and renewal, the arrival of April now ushers in yet another cycle of destructive urban riots raining down across the nation. Instead of birds chirping and flowers blooming, we have now grown accustomed to looters cheering and flames erupting. Once again, many of the same big businesses that have donated gobs of money to Black Lives Matter are being burned to the ground in the name of Black Lives Matter.
Reporting live back at the Brooklyn Center Police Department, and right behind me we still have constant clashes for a fourth night in a row between the National Guard, Brooklyn Center PD, and Minnesota State Troopers, and this huge crowd that's still out here tonight. We saw a couple hundreds back out here tonight for a fourth night in a row.
Now, there's so much wrong with what I just saw. I mean, the lady opens up, and I get it. At this point, they're trying to get us used to, just accepting this response in every scenario that's questionable. Sometimes these rioters don't even need an excuse. They just wake up one day, what's up, dude? What you doing today? Nothing. You want to go rioting? Yeah, why not? Let's do some looting. Sure, I'm down. Because the leaders in our state and cities aren't going to do nothing anyway. These Democrats are so invested in this race narrative that they've even gotten businesses on board to where they're going, you know what, we're not going to do anything. And this is how you know these businesses are on board. I witnessed a riot back in Cincinnati years ago. I forget the name of the young man who got shot, but he got shot by a cop in the back. These folks start rioting in a place called Over the Rhine. It was downtown, but it was like 3 or 4 blocks away from the business district. These folks was tearing up all of these mom and pop shops right in that little area, all of those black owned and other minority owned businesses. And what did the police do? They set up a perimeter, kept them all in there like animals, and let them just tear up their own stuff like they were kids in a playpen. Let's confine them to that, let them tear up their own stuff. But long as they don't come outside here and start easing down towards Cincinnati Bell, Procter & Gamble, all of the businesses made sure that they switched from rubber bullets to real bullets, just in case these rioters had some funny idea that, hey, instead of tearing up our own stuff, let's go tear up all of these corporation stuff. And they made sure, y'all come this far, we gonna put a cap in y'all. The brothers knew where they can go and where they couldn't go to tear stuff up. But now it's the sky's the limit. But notice the sky is limited to Democrat cities. Notice they're not bringing these riots over into Dallas, Texas, Houston, Ohio. They're only doing this in places where they get the wink and the gun. And somehow these businesses that are the big ones, they don't care. They insure it. They probably in cahoots anyway and all of that stuff. So I heard some of them even saying stuff like, it's okay because, you know, of all the injustice and stuff. But what about those mom and pop shops that aren't in cahoots with the Democrats? What about those self-made businessmen and women who are in that area or community servicing these people and don't have the insurance and the resources to rebuild after these knuckleheads tear stuff up? Not to mention, it makes black folks look bad. Did you see all those people? Do you think that the Democrats using in the media, manipulating all these young black folks to do this is a good look for black people? Do you think any reasonable person is going to side with them and their cause? And that is their method of getting their point across? I mean, I don't know about you. I don't care what color you are. If that's your tactic, if I turn on the news and I see you jumping on top of cars, laughing, celebrating, during times where you're supposed to be mad, you're supposed to be dead serious, but you up there laughing, joking, celebrating, and dumb enough to videotape yourself. You know they have no fear of repercussions when you're filming yourself committing crimes in these cities. That must mean the higher ups gave you the wink and the gun. They done gave you the green light. Tear that mess up. This stuff is crazy, but let's continue.
By week's end, the opportunistic looters and the Black Lives Matter militants had been joined by the usual Antifa Black Bloc agitators attacking police with impunity in Minnesota.
Isn't that an insurrection? Wait a minute, where's Nancy Pelosi? Where are all these folks that are supposed to be supporting our cherished police officers? Remember the Capitol? All of these attacks on our cherished police officers. It means nothing now. It means nothing. Hey, look at them. Going through that gate. That's crazy. That's crazy.
And in Portland.
Oh. Spreading like a plague, huh? Portland. Is that that's a liberal place, right? Okay, yeah. Minneapolis, Democrat. Okay. It's a barn fire. That's all that is. It's a barn fire. Yeah, let me get my hands warm. There we go. Yeah, that's warm. That's not looting and burning, no.
And in Los Angeles, where rioters sprayed "Kill Cops" slogans on looted buildings and also the phrase "No more white babies."
What? Well, see, I think they're misinterpreting what that says. That's no more Witte babies. See, they don't want Witte babies, not white babies. See, and that BLM is not Black Lives Matter. That is Buff Love Make It. Buff Love Make It. That's what that is. Buff Love Make It. Okay. Yeah. See, that's propaganda from the right.
This now ritualistic violence and destruction is stoked and coddled by toxic journalists downplaying left-wing violence and demonizing all who dare name the ruinous race-based chaos for what it is. Case in point, the so-called reporters who castigated a suburban Minnesota police chief for calling the latest outbreak of riots this week what they are. Riots.
Just so everybody's clear, I was front and center at the protest, at the riot. We did not.
Don't do that. There was no riot.
There was.
That white nationalist calling all of these people burning up stuff and breaking in and tearing stuff up and looting riots. He's only doing it because he's a racist and a white supremacist. Let's continue.
So the officers that were putting themselves in harm's way were being pelted with frozen cans of pop. They were being pelted with concrete blocks. And yes, we had our helmets on and we had other protection gear, but
for fun. They didn't need all those things. They felt completely safe and they didn't feel threatened at all. All of those helmets and stuff was just for fun. Okay, it was a practice run.
An officer was injured, hit in the head with a brick.
By another cop. I'm sure that was by another cop. It was not by one of these peaceful protesters.
That was a Hennepin County deputy. He was transported to the hospital. So we had to make decisions. We had to disperse the crowd because we can't allow our officers to be harmed.
That police chief has now resigned, and one of his employees has also lost her job, faces criminal prosecution, death threats, and her family home was doxxed over the latest police-involved shooting involving the latest repeat criminal offender turned Black Lives Matter instant murder. Meanwhile, the Capitol Police officer who shot and killed Trump supporter Ashley Babbitt on January 6th won't face any criminal charges.
What?
And that officer's identity has been protected by the media.
Huh. Now, isn't that crazy? I believe it was Facebook that was even talking about how you can't even talk about the lady from Black Lives Matter who bought 4 homes because it might be putting her in danger. It's like doxing her and stuff. But yet, I'm sure they don't have a problem with folks releasing the address of that lady who shot that young model student. That scholar, black young man who never was on video waving guns or taking drugs and drinking and stuff like that. No. That kid who never violated any type of laws ever in his life. That peaceful young man who simply wanted to raise his kids and be a great dad and go off to college and be the best kid he can be. He wasn't trying to run. He was getting back in that car to get his license and his registrations very quickly, though, very quickly. And sporadically. That's all that was. And that white nationalist cop said to herself, this is my chance. I'm going to pretend like I'm reaching for my taser. Knowing I'm really reaching for my gun. This is my great diabolical scheme and plan to get away with it, to make it look like it was an accident.
Watch the video and listen to the officer's commands. It is my belief that the officer had the intention to deploy their taser, but instead shot Mr. Wright with a single bullet.
But I know that it's really not, because my mission is to kill a black man today.
This appears to me, from what I viewed and the officer's reaction and distress immediately after, that this was an accidental discharge.
Yeah, that's what happened. Let's finish.
Many times over the past year here on Sovereign Nation, you've heard me use the term anarcho-tyranny. It's important that we describe the current cultural, political, and social threats in America accurately. It's not socialism or communism under which we suffer most. It's anarcho-tyranny. The late conservative columnist Sam Francis first coined that term in 1992 to diagnose a condition of both anarchy, meaning the failure of the state to enforce the laws, and at the same time, tyranny, the enforcement of certain laws by the state for oppressive purposes.
Wow, now that's deep, y'all. Oh, that seems like an oxymoron. So basically what you do, you have your enforcers, which is Black Lives Matter, Antifa, the media, all of that. Then what you do is you have certain folks that you enforce the law on and certain folks that you don't. So now, these cops that, I guess, accidentally shot that black man who jumped in that car and started taking off, she automatically is guilty. We need to go ahead and prosecute her. But that Trump supporter that happened to be a woman looking through that window and looking up over that window with no warning, none of that, didn't even see who did it. All we saw was a dude just straight bang. That's it. We ain't heard nothing about him. Nothing. But yet, imagine if that was a black kid, unarmed. Just simply climbing through the window. He ain't threatening that dude. He ain't yelling at him. He's just simply climbing up there and all of a sudden, some white, systemically racist white cop shoots him. You think they would keep his identity quiet? You think they would say, there's no need to investigate, everything looks clear here. What she just described is exactly what we're living in right now.
It means using the dictatorial power of the government and its agents to punish and criminalize the law-abiding and the politically unpopular, while protecting violent criminals and the politically powerful. Anarcho-tyranny is how Antifa and Black Lives Matter rule the streets while shop owners cower in fear. Anarcho-tyranny is how left-wing domestic terrorists who've assaulted police and invaded police stations and burned down courthouses get off with slaps on the wrist, while countless Trump supporters face ruthless witch hunts and overcharging for attending the January 6th Capitol rally. Anarcho-tyranny is how teenager Kyle Rittenhouse is facing a maximum sentence of life plus 170 years and 9 months in prison for defending himself against Antifa thugs who beat him over the head with a skateboard and ran at him while wielding a gun. While 2 teen girls that carjacked an Uber driver in Washington, D.C., who died in that crash after they dragged him through the streets, may get a plea deal and little, if any, jail time.
2 teenage girls are held in jail tonight, charged in the death of an Uber Eats driver, and there's a chance the pair could reach a plea deal. News Nation's Felicia Bolton is here now with a breakdown of that case, and Felicia, how that victim is being remembered.
Well, the 2 teens are accused of armed carjacking and murder, and the entire incident was caught on camera. I have to warn you, the video may be disturbing to some of our viewers.
Upstairs. They're thieves.
What's going on?
Call the cops. They're trying to steal his car.
This cell phone video, widely shared on social media, shows 2 teens trying to steal Mohammed Anwar's Honda Accord on March 24th in D.C. According to D.C. police, the suspects used a taser in the crime.
Now, first of all, I thought the Democrats love foreigners, especially Muslims, but yet they're not even upset about this. Oh, okay, so the black young teenagers trumped Muslims. I see you got your hierarchy of victims. So, you got your Muslims, you got black folks right now because we're in season. Then you got your, your transgenders, your gay and lesbian, and, the list goes on. So, okay, let's see how this all ends.
Bottom line, there can be no justice and certainly no peace as long as citizens, law-abiding ones, surrender to the rule of anarcho-tyrants and their handmaidens in the press, social media, and big business.
Well, there you have it, guys. Part 2 of going down this racist rabbit trail. Oh, yeah. Stay tuned for part 3. Going down that racist rabbit trail. Check out Extreme Teas, my sponsor. The link is below this video. If you click on it and put Kevin in the promo code, you'll get a 20% discount. And finally, don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button. And if you'd like to donate to Kevin and Kevin's Corner, there's links below this video to do that as well. Okay, God bless you and God bless